After over 10 years of serialization, the ending of Classroom Elite is still hard to see. It most likely wouldn't end with a happy ending, but imagining Ayanokoji would die at the end of the story feels like a cheap copy of a protagonist from another series. We are currently in the middle of a 4-class battle, but with how the story goes on, there will most likely be a sequel after Ayanokoji graduates from high school. It could be the university arc where Nagumo and Manabu are waiting, or maybe the political arc where we will finally see Atsuomi in action. So, let's try to look into the future and see what kind of fate is waiting for Ayanokoji. The current theme of the series is about the battle between the 4 classes and which class will graduate as Class A. From this point, there are only 2 possible outcomes: either Ayanokoji win or lose the battle. The happy ending will be Ayanokoji losing the battle just like he wanted, so he could bring that proof to his father that the White Room is not perfect, and hopefully Ayanokoji could change his mindset that everyone is not a tool. However, happy endings are cliché, predictable, and sometimes boring to read. A dark ending where Ayanokoji ends up winning sounds more suitable for Classroom of the Elite, because Ayanokoji will remain unchanging, and Classroom of the Elite will forever be known because it doesn't follow the standard pattern of the similar series. And with the dark ending, the sequel of Classroom of the Elite will be way more anticipated. However, no matter which class ends up winning, I doubt we will get a satisfying conclusion for Ayanokoji. We know that the real enemy is waiting out there, and ANHS is just a small part for Ayanokoji to play, so graduating from ANHS will just become a stepping stone for an even bigger story. When that time comes, we will say goodbye to most of the characters and start an entirely new premise in the sequel story. However, a few popular characters such as Ryuen and Ichinose will be too precious to be just left out of the story, so there is a chance we will see them again even after graduation. Some characters like Sakayanagi and Horikita already have a guarantees to appear again in the future, but for Ryuen and Ichinose, Kinugasa will need a good excuse to write them again. Coincidence or not, Ryuen mentioned in Volume 12 that if he cannot defeat Ayanokoji in school, he will take his revenge even outside the school. And from Ichinose's quote from the 3rd-year website, she said that no one knows what will happen in the future. So making Ryuen lose against Ayanokoji and keeping Ichinose's love unrequited are probably Kinugasa's excuse to keep them in the future. If they end up keep chasing Ayanokoji, then it makes more sense that Ayanokoji will win at the end. Ryuen will keep chasing Ayanokoji for revenge, and Ayanokoji will keep using Ichinose because he will never get rid of his tool mentality. This does indeed sound like a dark ending, but from the story's perspective, it's probably better that way. No matter how the battle between 4 classes will end, Ayanokoji's future wouldn't change dramatically, which means that he will still return to the White Room. It's unlikely that Ayanokoji will continue further education in there, so Atsuomi must have a few plans to use Ayanokoji after he returns to the White Room. In Volume 0, Atsuomi said that the earliest Ayanokoji could join politics is when he reaches the age of 25. Ayanokoji will be just 18 years old when he graduates high school, so there will be 7 years before he could legally enter the political world. It's interesting to see how Atsuomi already planned what Ayanokoji needs to do in those 7 years, but because Ayanokoji cannot enter politics before he is 25, what he can do in those 7 years is pretty much limited. Since Ayanokoji just graduated high school, it will be more logical to continue his education at the university. If Atsuomi really wanted Ayanokoji to join politics, having a degree from a famous university would help a lot to build his status. It's also interesting that in Volume 12.5, Ayanokoji talked about his plan to enter the same university as Nagumo and Manabu, and he said that in front of Atsuomi, so it wouldn't be impossible if Atsuomi really sent him to college. This possibility aligns with Nagumo's invitation in Volume 11's 2nd-year arc, and also Ayanokoji's promise to meet Manabu again outside the school. However, 4 years of university sounds like a lot of unnecessary plot. We didn't need another facility with a special exam where the students must fight each other to fill their pockets, so the university arc really sounds unnecessary. If you are thinking about it, ANHS already guarantees their Class A graduate with full support for their career, so there is literally nothing else that would make university arc interesting. They could try to mix political or business elements into it, but it still sounds like a step back from the progress we have so far. We already have a solid foundation for the political arc, so starting an entirely different plot is the same as walking backward. A university degree is important for Ayanokoji, but it will be better to just skip the 7-year gap and immediately enter the political arc. It's not like I don't want the university arc, but starting the university arc before the political arc doesn't sound like a good move, because Classroom Elite has already run for over 10 years, so adding another 10 years is the same as asking the readers to order their coffin. First, we should agree that the entire problem of Ayanokoji happened because his father put him in the White Room, and if we wanted Classroom Elite to end, it need to give a proper conclusion for Atsuomi and the White Room. A lot of you are probably wondering if the White Room will get exposed to the public, and Atsuomi will end up in jail, but that kind of scenario feels really predictable, and simply too happy for this series. The political arc should revolve around how Ayanokoji tries to take control from his father, or how the others will try to save Ayanokoji if he already gives up on them. We could finally see the political war between Atsuomi and Kojima, and for better or worse, Harikita and the others will probably become the main focus of this arc. For example, if Harikita decides to enter politics, she could choose to side with Kojima to destroy Atsuomi and liberate Ayanokoji. There are only 3 possibilities for the end of the political arc. Either Kojima win, Atsuomi win, or an unexpected third party steals their glory. The third ending where Ayanokoji and the others join hands to take down both parties sounds like the best ending, but knowing how many enemies Ayanokoji had made during his high school life, it wouldn't be strange if someone like Ryuen decided to join the opposite side to take revenge on him. At the end, the political war will most likely still revolve around the old characters, but with a different environment and a much higher stage. There will be no special exam, and there will be no graduation as the time limit. Instead of graduation, the time limit, and also the climax is most likely the Prime Minister election, because that event is the first time Atsuomi got betrayed, and it should be the time he get his revenge. However, if we are talking from a moral perspective, both Ayanokoji and Atsuomi didn't deserve a happy ending. It's not like it is impossible for Ayanokoji to be free, but he should get a consequences for his terrible action. As for Atsuomi, he deserves the most terrible ending imaginable for what he did with all those innocent children like Yuki. Just simply losing a political war is not enough, at least he needs to rot in jail for eternity. The political arc could also be the best chance for the White Room students to gather and take revenge on Atsuomi. The old characters such as Yuki and Shiro could appear again when they are adults, and depending on how much they hate Atsuomi, or how much they got brainwashed by him, we could potentially get the battle between the White Room students, especially if Yagami wants to have revenge on Ayanokoji. As for the White Room, there is only a small chance that the White Room will be exposed to public. Maybe Ayanokoji will shut it down in secret, but Ayanokoji already mentioned that he didn't deny White Room ideology, and he is actually planning to return and become an instructor for the newer generation. That kind of future sounds like a punishment because Ayanokoji will never leave the White Room, but I think it suits this series well since a happy ending is too much to ask for Ayanokoji. The White Room had brought a lot of misfortune, but its achievement cannot be denied. If Ayanokoji takes control of it, the White Room could even become public with a better curriculum compared to when his father ran it. With Ayanokoji in charge, he could even make it a government facility, and it will be a real slap in the face for Atsuomi if he sees his precious White Room become a part of the government without his name on it. In conclusion, the political arc will most likely become a sequel, and also the finale of Classroom of the Elite. With a lot of old character and potentially more White Room students, the political arc could become bigger but also more complicated than the school story that we have right now. Everything will keep revolving around Ayanokoji and a few characters that we already know, but Atsuomi and Kojima will take the biggest stage. Ayanokoji's goal will be trying to take over control from his father, or waiting for someone to save him. It most likely wouldn't end with a happy ending for him, Atsuomi, or the White Room, but I think a small happiness will be enough for him as long as he keeps on living. I don't think Ayanokoji will die at the end of the series, but if he really dies, that will conclude the waifu war in the most unsatisfying way. For a series that heavily relies on its fan service, I don't think it's a good idea to anger the fanbase, but since a lot of series have trouble with their endings lately, it's not impossible for the worst ending to happen. As for who will end up with Ayanokoji, I think that is a question that is better left unanswered. An open ending is probably the best ending that could be accepted by anyone. After all, Classroom Elite is not a romance series, and it's still too early to tell who Ayanokoji will end up falling in love with. But for that to happen, let's just hope Ayanokoji can survive until the end.